I really need to respond to this story that came out from analysts in the last couple of days here, saying that the Nintendo Switch 2 is not going to be as popular or as successful as the Nintendo Switch. And a lot of people, really jumped on the bandwagon to argue and fight this point. I've seen Spawnwave talking about this, RGT85, multiple sources. And it's interesting because if you look back in history, not just at Nintendo, but at really successful consoles or other devices in the market, and then look at their follow up, it is a really safe bet when something is insanely successful to say that the follow up probably won't be as successful. You look at something like the Nintendo DS selling 140 something million units, and then the Nintendo 3DS, a successful platform on its own, only selling about 85 million. And we say only in air quotes because 85 million is still a whole heck of a lot of devices for anything to sell. But the idea that the Switch 2 may not be as successful, the Switch 1 right now having sold like 132, 134 million units, on pace to catch up with the DS this year and become the most successful platform of all time. You just have to say statistically that they're not going to capture lightning in a bottle twice. The idea that so many people have the Switch, and many people are invested really deeply in the Switch with huge physical libraries of 50, 100, multiple hundreds of games, and they may not be instantly as interested in moving on from that investment. Now, if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible, which we are really crossing our fingers and hoping for, that the Switch is basically fully backwards compatible with everything except, say, the Labo games and anything that may be a form factor problem, like if the new Switch doesn't have Joy-Cons, like removable Joy-Cons, for example. It could be possible that some of those games that heavily rely on using separate Joy-Cons or something may not work. But the bulk of the library being backwards compatible is something that is going to help the Switch to get over that hurdle. However, I think it's very likely to say that a lot of people, especially parents of children, are going to look at the Switch 2 and say it's not necessary. My children already have Mario. My children already have Zelda, Mario Party, Mario Kart. They don't necessarily need that next thing right out of the gate. And while they may adopt later on, for example, it's very common, even again looking back to the 3DS, which was fully backwards compatible, that still didn't push it over the edge in terms of keeping pace with the DS. Selling about 30 or 40%, maybe more, 45% less than the DS, even though it was fully backwards compatible with that DS library. So I think these analysts coming out and making a shocking, revelation that the Switch 2 is not going to be as successful, I think that is a pretty safe bet. Now, could the Switch 2 blow the doors off of all of our expectations? Yes, absolutely it could. I think there is a very good chance that Nintendo will continue on this trend of being the market leader for hardware, coming into the next generation. It's very possible, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that either they've moved on from gaming, as kids grow up, whatever. I know my own kids have a lot less interest in the Switch in their teenage years than they did earlier in life. And gaming is becoming more and more an adult pastime. Less and less kids are playing these things. So, it's entirely possible, probable, in fact, that even if the Switch 2 sold 80 or 90 or 100 million consoles, which if the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 sold 100 million consoles, it was considered entirely successful. PlayStation 3, I believe, sold about 85 million, similar to the 3DS, somewhere around there. And then was followed up by the PS4, which sold, I believe, 120-ish million. So, I think it's a fairly safe bet to say that it won't be as successful. What do you think, guys? Do you think the Switch 2 is going to just absolutely blow the doors off everybody's expectations, or do you think it's going to be too much of more of the same, to the point where, with a cross-gen period, for example, if people can still play, some of the newer games, let's say Metroid Prime 4 is a launch title and it's cross-gen the way Breath of the Wild was with the Wii U going to the Switch, how many people are just going to buy it on the Switch and forego buying the Switch 2 for the time being, especially since it's rumored that the Switch 2 is going to be $50 to $100 more expensive than the current Switch, even the Switch OLED. Let me know down in the comments what you think, because there seems to be an awful lot of controversy about these analyst takes, and I'm honestly a little confused. I don't know why there would be so much controversy over something that, it kind of makes sense. Let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy.